I think everyone's immediate reaction at the weekend is like, "Oh, I can't believe they won as well," or "I can't believe everyone below us won." Do you know what I mean? That would have been the reaction up and down the country from these teams involved in the battle.
I said last week when 4 of the bottom 6 won, and I think it was like 7 of the bottom 10 or something ridiculous. This never happens. Well, I was talking complete nonsense because literally the next week, if you have a look over at the form guide, again wins 4. And apologies in advance. We always do this. Apologies to Rotherham fans. You're too far back. We're not including you in the conversation. I'm sorry. Wednesday won in 23rd. Stoke won in 22nd. Go up a couple of plays. Huddersfield had a heroic draw against Leeds, and it does very little for them. Birmingham's late defeat seems significant now. QPR won again. Blackburn won. Millwall won again against Watford. And all of a sudden, you now see Blackburn on 39 points and Plymouth on 40, who we've said are safe for weeks, right on the edges of it. And then you look at Swansea's back-to-back wins, Sam. If Swansea had scored 0 points in those 2 games, they'd be on 36 and they'd be in the relegation zone. Look, there's a lot to talk about, but first, just give me a hell yeah for Sheffield Wednesday and QPR. What form those two are in.
It's just incredible, all of it. I mean, I text my brother, he'd not been at the game, but I think everyone's immediate reaction at the weekend is like, "Oh, I can't believe they won as well," or "I can't believe everyone below us won." Do you know what I mean? That would have been the reaction up and down the country from these teams involved in the battle. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, if we deal with QPR and Sheffield Wednesday, firstly, that's the reason, isn't it? That all these teams that were probably relatively comfortable, thinking that they could plan for next season, are all of a sudden in the mire. So QPR, my thinking there, I think it's the manager, the impact of him, clearly. I think it's quite pertinent that they're playing West Brom on Wednesday evening. It was probably one of my lowest moments in recent times following QPR being at the Hawthorns for the 2-0 defeat early part of this season, where they had one shot. And Jimmy Dunn was sent off in that game, but they hadn't had a shot before Jimmy Dunn was sent off. It was a blocked shot. And I just came away from it thinking it's League One. It's League One next season for Rangers. So this has been an incredible turnaround. Ingredients to it, the new manager, his coaching methods, improving the players, Ben. And Jimmy Dunn that I mentioned there, to give him the nod in some big games at right back, I think shows you what he's doing with the individuals. Lyndon Dykes as well. I mean, these are the 2 guys that I probably criticise the most, Dunn and Lyndon Dykes. So to get the improvement in those 2 guys in particular, that's really evident how much of an impact the manager's had. Reintroducing probably the flair players, Chair and Willock. We knew it was in them. Could someone get it out of them again at a consistent level? I think he's doing that. And the ability, and I think you can put Sheffield Wednesday side by side here. And I won't talk about Danny Rowe. I've done that enough in the last few weeks. But my sentiment is exactly the same with him. But I think the opportunity and the want and the ability to go and improve in January with some signings. And I think that's a big part of this QPR improvement, the depth across all the positions now, when they were having to play young kids who I didn't think were up to it early part of the season. That's the honest truth. Not championship kind of level players were filling that 11 for QPR. So for QPR to improve, but also Sheffield Wednesday to go and get Poveda and Ugbo in particular, those 2. The shape seems more consistent now with Wednesday as well, kind of wing backs, but I think there's probably a little bit more strength there for probably Barry Bannon to be a little bit deeper and to orchestrate things and not have to maybe be pulled out of position too often. So it seems to be suiting him, who is clearly Sheffield Wednesday's best player, best operator. So I think Poveda and Ugbo have done for Sheffield Wednesday what those 3 or 4 signings have done for QPR as well.
Let me just bring the table back up, Sam. I want to talk about Millwall just briefly, because we both predicted Millwall are going to go and beat Watford. Stoke were the other winners. On Millwall, is there almost, and I don't want to rain on Millwall's parade because it's a great story with Harris, is there almost a danger you get the new manager bounce, regress to the mean, and you're still in trouble, having put 6 points on the board. And if you can run that into Sam as well, what a big win for Stoke. I know Middlesbrough are really flaky at the moment, but my God, that's a Sam Parkin must-win game if ever I saw one.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I was trying to kind of sum up what's been happening to Southampton in the last 2 or 3 weeks on the radio on Saturday afternoon. And there's always that kind of cliche, has the run come too early?
Mm-hmm.
And for Millwall, has that managerial bounce come too early when you consider what's going on at the bottom of the division? I think possibly, but I still feel that Neil Harris will be much better suited to probably Joe Edwards in accruing the amount of points to keep them in the division. I don't think anything changed, and they'll play a lot better than they did on Saturday. I don't think it was great by any means, but I mean, in the last 12 games, only Blackburn have taken fewer points than Watford, and I know our cause for concern is going to be reserved for someone in the higher echelons of the division, but there's a few teams that are in horrendous form towards the middle of the table. Middlesbrough, Bristol City, 3 straight defeats now. Sunderland, 4 straight defeats, I think. And Watford, 10 points won in that time. So that was an optimum opportunity for Millwall to go and win the game, and they did so. I think Millwall, because of that change and because of the last couple of results, clearly as we sit here today, they're not one of the ones I'm most worried about.
No.
But Birmingham as well. I mean, the home form at St Andrews, I think they haven't lost at home since Boxing Day. So the form there is good. And I think there's enough winnable games with the way that they're going about things now to still have a little bit of optimism. Yet this week is tough for them. Having said that, I think they go to Hull and I think they go to Millwall. So after the next 7 days, this conversation could be even more worrying for the Blue Noses. But I just feel that form at St Andrews and the games that they've got remaining, I wouldn't be too concerned about them now. I'm concerned about all of them. Obviously, you're worried about all the teams down there, but I just think, that's reason for optimism. The one negative, of course, and is not having Tony Mowbray, because you think with him at the helm, there'd be a great opportunity of them getting a bit of momentum and a little bit of form. So for them, in isolation, that's such a shame for them.
Let's do what did you call it? Long division and algebra now. So the reason why I didn't sneer when Sam mentioned Sunderland is because of what we're about to say in terms of the sort of amount of points that might be needed. And we've got to say this right now, Sam, if the current trends continue, because we know these teams are at the bottom for a reason and it could come to a standstill. And I know I said it last week. We can't just have the bottom half all winning, the people in the middle of the table not winning at all, and then the people at the top win. It just doesn't make any sense at all. But hey, this is the Championship. So generally, Sam, I've done the maths this morning. The last 10 teams to get relegated in 22nd place averaged 42.9. So call that 43 points. And we'll say 43 points has not been enough to keep you up on average over the last 10 years. And we do have to caveat all this, Sam. There's been points deductions and there's been a couple of COVID seasons, which you can say the figures are a bit funky because of that. The last 10 teams to survive or be in 21st place. So the sort of, minimum points to stay up had been an average of 46. Now, what I always like to do, Sam, is bring them together in the middle. So if you've got 43 and 46, bring them both in one, and you can say 44 probably takes you down, 45 probably keeps you up. But look at that this season. The projections at the moment, Sheffield Wednesday, and obviously the projection, unfortunately for them, takes into account like 0 points in the first 12 games or something, would land on 46 points and get relegated, which would be ridiculous and might not happen because they might even get more than that given how they're going at the moment. Next up, you've got Stoke and Huddersfield and QPR are all projecting 49.9. Call that 50. that basically sets the total, Sam. You need 50 to survive, don't you, basically? Birmingham are projecting 51.4 because they've got a game in hand on everybody else. Blackburn and Millwall, sorry, I should have done them first, 51.25. So ridiculously, Sam, you've almost got a case for it being 5 points. I don't know what that is as a percentage, 45 up to 50, 5 points higher than it normally is. Do you see things maintaining with this high tide and with there's so many teams involved? I think I can see it being a crazy high total and someone being very unlucky, like Charlton were. I've got it down here. Charlton got relegated with 48 the year Wigan had the 12-point deduction. Blackburn went down in 2017 with 51. You see something like that happening?
I think so. I'm reluctant to completely show my hand because a few weeks ago we had it as a four-team race for survival. So I am a little bit reluctant. I think they may plateau a little. Maybe, you know, some of the teams that have been really consistent. It's just like Sheffield Wednesday have drawn 1 in 17. So it just shows you that points that they may prove to be fruitful right at the death, you know, if we're talking about it being neck and neck as we approach the last couple of games. But at the moment, it doesn't matter if you don't turn up the odd week, as long as you're able to churn out those victories at home, or, you know, win 1 every 3 games or whatever.
Exactly. So, I was just going to say that 1 win in 3, and you're at the point per game, aren't you?
Yeah. So no, I would probably side with it, you know, being a real high points total to survive. So maybe towards that 50 mark you just spoke of. The one team I did want to flag, because I was looking for, you know, the sides that are in trouble, the sides that are on a slippery slope, if you like. And when I looked at the form guides over a different amount of games, the team that keep coming back to me is Argyle. And I've been, you know, reluctant to do this really, because I think, you know, recently they've had, you know, incredibly tricky games. They've had a change of manager. They've lost, obviously, Kundal, Azaz, the manager. But I think the supporters there must be concerned, especially with Sheffield Wednesday on the horizon this week. And 29 goals, I think, Whittaker and Hardy have supplied. I think that the top next goal scorer in that squad at the moment is on 3 goals. So there's a complete over-reliance. And I think that's been their strength in me continually backing them for survival. But I think it is a worry the way that they're not creating opportunities. And I don't think they created much. I'm sure you saw more of the game than me, but I don't think they created a great deal against Ipswich. In their defence, or to back them a little bit, the games are not bad. I think there's 7 games against lower half opposition. They play Leicester, if memory serves me right, at home park, and they play Hull City at home park. Other than that, there's not too much to get overly concerned about. So a bit like Birmingham, I think the fixtures may be kind enough for them to gain enough points to stay in the division, but they are certainly 100% in it.
Crazy. Yeah, just to round this out, the crazy thing is what I call abject form, Sam, is 0.5 points per game. So if you, for example, gave Watford all the way up in 12th abject form, so they score 5.5. I know you can't score 5.5 in the remaining. Sorry, no, it's 11 games. They're under 50 points, and we've just said that might be the magic number, which is why. Okay, maybe Cardiff and Sunderland, you'd be looking at them literally scoring 1 or 2 points for the rest of the season. That would be what it might take to drag them into it. I think you've kind of shown your hand a little bit. The one team higher up you're worried about. Is there one team, say, out of Wednesday, Stoke, Huddersfield, Birmingham down there that you're kind of confident about? Would it be Wednesday?
Oh, that is a really tricky question. Really tricky question. I mean, if you're sitting here this morning, a Stoke City fan, you'd be really pleased with the weekend. I thought there was some real positives for them. I thought the midfield, I thought the nature of the performance, much more front-footed, aggressive, a little bit maybe more direct into Ennis played down the middle, didn't he? And I think they got a little bit of joy with that front three as well. I'm not sure how often that's been the kind of permutations, the midfield selection and the front players as well. And after having such a horrific run at home, to get back-to-back wins, and they're playing in kind of low margin games all of a sudden. Stoke, there's not an abundance of goals in their games, which was probably a bit of a necessity to make them a little bit less risk adverse, possibly. So I don't know. I'm kind of scrambling around. I'm not confident about any of them.
Well, and Sam, sorry to interrupt. There's the chance with these teams that they can go and score 1 point in 5 games, which at the moment, with what everyone else is doing, would absolutely kill you, wouldn't it? So I know where you're going with it.
I'd probably say Millwall, maybe. I'd probably say I'm most confident about Millwall getting out of it after making that change, and that's purely. It's not sentiment. It's based on the timing, and it's based on probably the affection probably between manager and players, a lot of those that remain, and probably the ability to have 5 or 6 games back to back with that feeling now, which should give them enough of a cushion.
Wow. Just incredible stuff down at the bottom of the table. We'll clip this one out again. We've got a series of these now, Sam, of us contradicting ourselves just as things change, just completely rapidly in the Championship. But as ever, get your comments in on how you see it shaping up. And
hey, just finally, Blackburn, 8 points. Last 12 games, the worst in a division. They didn't even get a mention there.
And if you do that in the next 12 games, yeah, quite. So do what Sam did, by the way, in the comments. Give me one team you're worried about, who's higher up, who you could see falling, and give me one team who's lower down, who you can see going up a couple of 3 places, which is entirely plausible given there's 2 points between about 17 teams at the moment.